start. Welcome everyone to the Board of Supervisors July meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no guest speakers at this time and no public comment. Nobody wants public comment. We'll move on to liaison reports. First, we have Solicitors Report.
Nothing that's on the agenda.
Emergency Management Coordinator. John, you have anything for us?
I don't have anything new. Hopefully for Union Day we'll have some EMA. But other than that, everything's quiet right now. Won't stay that way.
All right, Gregg Township Fire Company.
Good evening. Once again, I'm Darren Russell. I'm giving a report for the fire company in place of Scott. He is judging Reversburg's parade this evening. First of all, we'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for helping us purchase the carnival raffle tickets. It's a huge help rather than a large expense. Our carnival will take place August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, with the parade being August 2nd at 7 p.m. We have DJs on Thursday and Friday night and a band on Saturday night. We will have a children's pedal tractor pull on Saturday at 4 p.m. Also, we're having a Community Safety Day demonstration on Saturday from 1 to 3. We'll have fire, EMS, search dogs, and law enforcement present with their vehicles. This past month, we ran 6 calls, one major one with a combine fire over on 192. Reversburg assisted with that. We have recently discovered a major problem with one of our pieces of apparatus not being manufactured heavy enough for its intended use. Although this is a concern, it should not be taken as a dire emergency at this point. We will need to replace this vehicle at some point, but we need to remember that it was not used as a firefighting piece of apparatus. It was used more as a rescue piece of apparatus. So at this time, we emptied the water out of it. We took all the firefighting equipment off of it and just kept the rescue equipment on it. And we are closer to the weight limit that we're allowed to have. Scott had checked with DOT, and they said if you're driving that down the road and not even for an emergency response and something would happen, we would be in some major trouble. So we stripped it down as best we could. It's now going to be a rescue unit. All the other fire companies in the county know that it's a rescue unit at this time. As of right now, our goal is to find something a little bit heavier that can be used for firefighting and also rescue operations. We don't want to go jump into anything and then have buyer's remorse down the road. We put together an exploratory committee, and that will report back to the board and other committees. And then we also want to keep the Board of Supervisors and the community up to date as we get updates. Once again, this project will take time, but we have a committee together, and we'll keep everybody informed in the upcoming months. Hope everybody enjoys the carnival and the parade company. Hope we have weather like we have right now. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
Old Gregg School Advisory Board.
Hi, I'm Carol Gamick. We don't have a whole lot this month, thank goodness. One thing we still have going is barbecue chicken. We still have tickets. I think we have what, 300 and sold over 200 so far. So if any of you here haven't gotten your ticket yet, we have, Jen has some, I have some, and Carol Myers has some with us. And we also still have the cookbooks that we're still selling, pushing. And I have Christine Sailors and Nancy Hartman are going to be working with pretty much jointly planning the Winter Craft Fair. So any information that you might have that they can use to set up to on the website. And Christine is being very happy to take over doing the Facebook for us and any other posting. And I did notice, I saw where on the calendar that we had board meetings posted twice this month. It was marked for the 3rd and 10th, and then the chicken barbecue is not on that. I had a little trouble finding, because I looked under boards and commissions, and we weren't under there, and then finally I went down through the tabs, and I
You're talking about on
found us at
the Google Calendar on the website.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can have that.
The only other thing was, we had a couple, we wanted to know if everything had been signed on the basement rental, if you had worked that out with the church, the last.
We had not. I told them that it was what we had discussed. But they've been on vacation and stuff for a while, so we
I think
can.
Sir Camp sort of took over their line for a little while.
Do you want to make a note of that?
And the only other thing we needed to know was about if the policy manual was ready to go, and if the budget reflects the changes in Doug's payroll to Jen's. Did we miss something when that was sent?
Are you asking me? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
please. I knew you were right.
Yes, it should be.
Yeah. I
Maybe
mean, you'll
we-
see, I've only done 1 quarters yet, because I'm
Okay.
doing it quarterly. The transfer will happen quarterly, and I hadn't, when you got your report, I hadn't done 2nd quarter yet, so
Okay,
you'll see
okay.
the 1st quarter.
Okay, all right, that's all I had. Did you have any
Okay.
questions for us?
Anything for the board? Penns Valley Code Enforcement Agency? Penns Valley Regional Planning.
Yeah, the Penns Valley Regional Planning Commission met on June 19th here. That was organized by it was a meeting of the Center Tax Agency with the Center Tax Agency Director. The purpose was to discuss the local services tax. I guess there was quite a bit of information that was gathered there. That was held, where was that held?
In the
Gym?
gym.
Yeah, I was away, so I didn't get it. But that's all I have.
Planning Commission did not meet this month, so there's nothing to report there. Tri-Municipal Park. Joel, do you want to give an update?
Very briefly, I guess, the big message I have tonight is we've been waiting, I don't know how many years for a groundbreaking ceremony, but we are having a groundbreaking ceremony on August 11th. August 11th at 11 a.m. That's a Saturday morning, and we certainly like to see as many people there as possible. So we are going to move ground this summer, and the committee's been doing quite a bit of work up there, just taking care of weed issues, working around the sign. I helped spray a bunch of Mare's Tail the resistant variety on the part we're going to be working on. And we're working on the Frisbee Golf Course. We hope to have the first set of holes ready to go this summer for that. And so that's about it, I guess. We will be actively doing fundraising very soon, and that's a central part of our work. And David is our solicitor for the park. We thank him for everything he's doing. Are we getting closer? I hope so. There are a couple legal things that have to take place here tonight too. I appreciate the board's support of that.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thanks, Joel. For Tri-Municipal Park, there are a number of documents that we need to make motion to approve and sign, including an ordinance 1801, incurring lease rental debt, a guarantee agreement, and a few other things for Tri-Park as a part of the Laguda requirements. So, do you want to?
First, this is what we signed, we approved last month, and this needs to get signed.
That was the amendment.
The amendment, 3rd article, blah, 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 blah. It was the motion we adopt a third amendment to the joint articles of agreement, amending paragraph 4.2 of the second amendment as is stated in the May 22nd, 2018 letter from President Joel Meyer, second by Stover, vote in favor, was unanimous. But we could use that language and do another motion since it's in front of us, or?
And practically, this is to
Transfer that 15,000.
There was an amendment that 10,000 or whatever had to stay in whatever account, the original account before Tri-Park Inc. was created. This is amending that so that that money can be moved to the Tri-Park Inc. fund.
Was our motion okay?
Yeah.
Or should we make a new?
You're good.
All right, so we
Sorry.
just sign it while we're here. It just came from Potter Township and Center Hall Borough, and then we can move on to the other.
The Laguda Local Government Unit Debt Act ordinance is an ordinance that you need to pass to guarantee the debt associated with this PennVest transaction. Bond counsel prepared it. My office did not prepare it. Whenever you guarantee debt of a nonprofit, which is what Tri-Municipal Park is, you need to have DCED, Department of Community and Economic Development's approval, right, to do so through an ordinance, and that's what this ordinance is. You've already agreed to guarantee the debt in the event the Tri-Municipal Park were to default on the loan to PennVest. And the ordinance just solidifies that guarantee. The maximum amount that Gregg Township could be responsible for is $35,960.07. I don't foresee that occurring. The park has its own revenue stream, and I think it's a safe bet, but nonetheless, you need to pass the ordinance for the park to get its money from PennVest.
It was duly advertised and is appropriate to use the advertisement, and if you want to see the ordinance, I have the ordinance. So I sent it out to you guys, so you should have it.
Yeah. That's what it is, though.
That's what,
That's
all,
what I-
we have 4 things to
So
sign.
that was just, you want to do a motion for the ordinance first? And that would be.
I think you can do all of them.
Oh.
When I say the ordinance, it's just a series of ordinances.
Oh, it is, that's all, once we'd have to sign this paper, I would certify that it's true and correct. This is to
Right,
the
it's-
debt thing, that,
It's a borrowing base certificate, I mean, they're all
Okay.
kind of lumped together. So I think you can do one motion to approve all of them. Sorry.
yeah, that's great, that's better.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance 01801 and documents associated with it for the Tri-Municipal Park.
I will make the motion. I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Okay. They need 2 copies, 2 original copies, so
Yeah.
here's the 2 copies. They only want these pages, so, oh, you don't sign.
I can notarize it.
But you gotta notarize the second page. I mean, the third, no, this is just carried, I guess. And it's-
Well, while I'm doing this, apparently in my checking off of agenda, I missed Penns Valley EMS.
Yes.
So Lindsay, if you want to give your report.
Sorry, Lindsay. I think it's 3 though, Jen.
Three what?
You have the ordinance, the borrowing base certificate, the debt statement. What's the 4th then? It's usually 3. Oh, and the guarantee,
This guarantee thing.
And the guarantee,
Yeah,
okay,
this has to get signed as well.
okay,
Was that motion good enough for this guarantee? This is part of it, right?
yes. Yeah. So when you write it up, say that the motion was for the ordinance, the borrowing base certificate, the debt statement, and the guarantee agreement. All of it's just guaranteeing the $35,000.
Say it one more time. The ordinance.
Ordinance, debt statement,
Right,
borrowing base certificate,
okay.
and the guarantee agreement. they're all basically part of
The
the.
same thing,
the
right?
good
Those
order.
good order, okay. So those have been signed, those need to be signed. I think everybody has a. Nope, I think it's just authorized signature, that's just you there.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Don't say anything I need to write down.
I'm not gonna, that's
Okay.
what I'm not
Okay,
gonna
stop,
talk.
yeah.
You're gonna wanna write down,
Okay. This might be the longest part of our meeting right here.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Just a lot of shuffling of paperwork.
Let's just do this notary one and then, that is this one. Anything else? There's 2 spots, I think, right?
On each packet?
On each packet.
No, I only signed one.
Oh, maybe there was another, there must be another one in there.
I didn't know the exact same.
This?
Check.
There's this. What page is it on? I bet it didn't, did I? Yeah, I think I did, print it out. They're right, they're 2 pages away from each other.
Nope.
Okay, well, I'll print page 6. Well, actually, maybe this actually just got, maybe this is actually, I'll figure it out. I'll get the guy, I know where to find you.
Ready?
Yeah, I can sign
It's
this.
okay. Take yours.
So I wanted to start with some good news for the EMS. Unfortunately, I was unable to make last month's meeting due to professional obligations. So I did deliver, though, the financials from last month and the minutes. And I also wanted to bring to the board's attention, just to make sure that, Jen, you're aware that Dave brought the director, every quarter is going to be sending one of these.
I sent that up.
Okay, great. And so just so the board knows, this is still getting tweaked. I mean, we talked a little bit about it last night, about things that I personally wanted to see. I still think it's a little bit much, and it's difficult to digest unless you're in the numbers every day. But I want to start with the fact there's a year-to-year comparison from 17 to 18, and we're obviously halfway through the year. Right now, last year at this time, they were almost at about a deficit of 90,000 for the year's budget. This year, we're at a deficit of 65.6. So that's to the good, even though it's a deficit, it's to the good 24,000, and that's based on the cuts that we've made, the reevaluating what the needs of the institution are. So that's the good news. And Jen, I'm going to give you everything I have in front of me.
Okay.
So please excuse my math as I was doing it during the meeting last night and trying to stay focused on the end goal. But if you look at the end where we're talking about profit and loss, the expense it costs to run the EMS is $540,000 a year. When you take what we are in expenses right now and just double it for estimate's sake, you're at an expense of $406,000. That's mandatory medical supplies that we don't get reimbursed for. That's employment, that's payroll expenses, that's taxes, that's benefits, it's everything in a nutshell. It's the upkeep of the ambulances, carrying the liabilities, all of that jazz. When you subtract the two, the difference that we have to make up is $134,000. So a lot of chunk of change. In the fall, the standby income for the antique show, the
football games, things of that nature, generate somewhere around $20,000. So when you add that to the outstanding deficit, you're at $104,000. Then we shift gears to the membership. The reason that the auxiliary was built and established, even though it's very, very small, and it has very dedicated members that can't do everything that's being tasked with, is that 104. So when you look at those memberships, the idea was to remain relevant in the public's mind so that we do educational impact pieces, so that we stay in the grapevine, hopefully create a new website, and educate folks about the benefits of the membership, because most folks are in families that $70 is the membership. If you take 70 times the amount that were sold last year, they sold 1,500 memberships last year, that income is $105,000. We're at a deficit right now of 104. Our hope is to get an increase on that. I am being very optimistic and trying to go for 2,500. Even if we fail, we're still succeeding. That would be an income of 157. That is to break even. That's not to buy a new ambulance. That's not that our, when the ambulances that we buy are, what do they call them, Charles? Like prop models or store models? Is that what?
Demos.
Demos, thank you. So, you know, that is a concern because there's no money for planning and sustainability. When you look at what the municipalities donated this year, the largest donation was from Potter because they're the largest. It was $52,000. We were second in Gregg Township with 21. Then Haynes was 16. Penn Township, you don't have to rail this down, Jen, I have it in form for you, sorry.
That's right.
Penn Township with 11,835. And then you have the boroughs, which are obviously much smaller. Center Hall was 5,500 and Millheim was 3,500. When you add all that together, it's 122,734. So I think that is what I wanted to present to the board, because I know you're going to be talking about the LST tax. And so with those figures in mind, again, we're doing better. So. Okay, and then I also have the calls for you. They're broken down by municipality. Gregg Township actually had the most, Potter Township had 23 calls last month. We had 13. Now these are just when we did transports. Please recall that we go out on more than these calls. These are just the transports. And that was one of my suggestions. I would like to see how many calls go out and how many we actually transport, because that's where the difference is between what we can bill for and not bill for. Then the last thing I'm going to be giving to you is a pie chart, which I was greatly appreciative of. At the top is a bar chart where it's showing you how much income we're getting in the past year. And then the bottom is who the payors are. The largest is Medicaid. The second largest is commercial, so private insurance. And then you have patient pay, so people that are not insured, and then Medicaid. And then these are the minutes. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
I'm sorry for the script.
That's all right.
Oh, yeah,
Could I ask a couple questions?
if I can answer them.
Your EMT criteria, how do you pick? Do you pay for EMT training, or?
I don't have that answer to that. That would be an answer for our chief, Jason Brooks.
Who takes care of that?
Jason Brooks, our chief.
Jason Brooks.
Yes, sir. Do you have any other questions?
Is that it, Donnie?
I think that's fine. Thank you.
Water and Sewer Authority, Gil sent his report. No actions were taken at their meetings. And that's it. So that's it for liaison reports. We'll move on to the Secretary Treasurer's report. I will entertain a motion to approve the June 14th Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion. I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. I will entertain a motion to accept the all funds financial report.
I will make that motion. I will second it.
Any further discussion?
No, none here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Jen had sent out the second quarter budget report.
Just a couple things that I wanted to point out. We've received 89% of our real estate tax We did get some in July, but this isn't included in that report. We are only at 26% of our real estate transfer tax, but we got a $7,000 check, $7,000 plus just this last week. So that takes us up to almost half of our real estate transfer tax, but that's one of those guesses, you don't know how many houses will get sold or whatever. So one of the things that skews the general fund's income is that we were happy to receive the 2 dirt and gravel road grants. So the 50% of those 2 grants, which totaled $67,288, has been put into this account. And of course, that makes our income look like it's not really an income. It's going to be it's going to be a turnaround when we put the expense. But for right now, the income is not balanced out by the expense at the moment. So that dirt and gravel road money has been deposited into our account, which is good. Going on to the expenses, as you can see, we're already at 125% for our solicitor fees, which is going to happen with what we've had to deal with in the last 6 months. So if it slows down, we won't have to come up with too much more money, but we're at $7,500 of our $6,000 budget. And we bought stamps probably 5 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, we bought the Forever stamps. We bought $1,000 worth of stamps, and I'm on my last roll. So we're going to have to cross-buy stamps. So I just wanted you to know our postage line item might be a little skewed. Yeah, I think I've saved some money by having done that. So yeah, so I think it was a good decision. So we've been fortunate for that. One other thing I wanted to ask before we moved on. Darren mentioned the fire company tickets, and I think we had said we had a budget of $700, but they were almost $9, I think, like $880 something. And I just wanted to either get an approval to pay that full amount, or last year we paid what we had budgeted, and then the fire company took over the rest. So I just wanted to get an answer for that before I pay that bill.
Any discussion or motions?
I think I'll leave that up to you two because of my position. I will make the motion. We pay the bill. Yeah.
Pay the full amount?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. You're abstaining? Motion carries.
All right. So all in all, we spent a lot of money on winter maintenance. So our winter maintenance is high, overtime salary is high, but all in all, our income to expense ratio is right on. We have a lot of money in our checking account right now because we just got our big real estate tax, but that's all going to get used by the end of the year. So when you look at the front page of our the checking account, we have $157,000, but that's because we have our real estate tax in there now. The old Gregg School, I apologize. I actually put the dollar over budget, and we're used to seeing the percent over budget in this report. So if that screwed you up and you wonder what the heck I was doing, it was my fault. Couple of things just in the old Gregg School budget. Underground memberships, I thought maybe it would fall off after the first year, but we've been consistently getting more memberships. We've gotten 1,500 of our 2,000 budget for that. Right now for the chicken barbecue, I have deposited in here $762, and then the cookbooks have made $650 this year, so that's good. So all in all, the old Gregg School Fund's doing great. The transfer that you see the general fund is I didn't have anywhere else to put it. That's the $4,000 that was donated from that fund from the township to the EMS, so that's in that budget. Really, the rest of them we haven't really spent a lot of money yet, but we will be right pretty soon. The liquid fuels will be going down with the projects that we've had. We'll take care of all that finances as it comes. The equipment fund, we're just letting it build until we find something we need, right? Street lights, seems like we're doing okay with that. We did have to borrow, I think we said $350 from the general fund, $300 from the general fund at the beginning of the year. So I could probably pay that back if you want me to go ahead and do that transfer, pay that street light fund, pay from the street light funds to the general fund. Do you want me to go ahead and make that transfer back?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we replenish the streetlight fund. What was the amount?
No, we're replenishing the general fund.
The
from-
general fund.
Yes,
Okay.
from this
So we replenish the general fund from the streetlight fund. What did you say it was?
$300.
$300, okay.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Just recently, last month, we made the motions for the recreation fund to pay for the volleyball court, which is getting done. This looks nice. We have some work to do still, but that is reflected in our second quarter budget. Any questions about that budget? A couple of other things I have, just wanted you to know that I filed the quarterly taxes, they're done. We have the direct deposit worked out, we have a few kinks that we still are working through. And I filed the claim for the truck that he'll be talking about, and then I also issued the trailer park permit that was negligent a couple of months. But next March, I'll try to remember to do that, so it's all taken care of.
While we're on Secretary Treasurer stuff, I do want to announce that we met in executive session at 5:30 today prior to the meeting to discuss personnel matters. And there's a few things that we want to make motions on, so we'll do that this time. We discussed giving Chris Smith a raise to $14 an hour, so I'll entertain a motion for that.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. We also discussed starting Rob's benefits now, so I'll entertain a motion for that.
I just want to clarify, is that benefits, health, retirement, all that, or are we just doing health? Life insurance, that all starts after 90 days. I don't know if there's a whole, I only checked with health insurance, and they said we just have to write a letter if we're
Let's just do
changing it.
health and, I would
You
think
guys-
it's health
yeah.
insurance.
Yeah.
You guys make that, I just wanted to make sure you clarify that in your motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we start Rob Schauber's health benefits early before the 90-day
Great, probation period.
probation period.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The other one would be after Rob's 90 days, to give him a raise to $16 an hour. Entertain that motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we raise Rob's pay $16 an hour after the 90-day probation.
So that will be September 4th.
You second?
Yes.
Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. All those were after completing a 6-month review of all the employees. So we will move on. Anything you want to report on the right to know? Officers
Just one
report?
quick one that we did get, on the 0074 that was filed on 5/2, we did get the, off of the determination. I didn't get it in my email, so I didn't get it in the report. It was granted in part and dismissed as moot point, so the township is required to conduct a good faith search of the township's records and to provide any records that are responsive to the request within 30 days, which we have no further documents to give them, but that's something we'll have to take care of. So that everything else is up to date and keeping you busy.
Any comments on any of those reports? Okay, move on to the Roadmasters report.
Okay, since Jen already started it, I'm just gonna say, we had a slight fender bender in the township yard the other day with 2 vehicles. One was not hurt at all. The pickup had a small dent in the back. Jen filed a claim with the insurance company, went and got an estimate, and they should cover everything, so that should be taken care of. Since last month, we did some shoulder work on Blue Ball and Granville, and both the full depth reclamation projects are done on those for the most part. Granville Road, we've got a few things that we're dealing with the company to try and fix. Blue Ball's paved, that worked out pretty decent. The shoulders are done with 2A. Been pretty busy with all that stuff. Hopefully we get that done. Have a chance to go to the mountain and do some grader work and put some stone down here.
We did have a resident ask us if we would post the speed limit signs
Oh,
in the
yeah.
grapevine, now that people are driving too fast
Yeah.
on 80.
Every road that you fix, it seems like there's 10 people that screamed at me and said, now people go too fast, and 10 other people say, or not 10 other people, one person says thanks, so maybe we don't need to fix any of them anymore.
So I don't know, will that make a difference if we make that put that in the grapevine? I mean,
You can just make a note of it in the little township
okay,
corner
all right, I will do that.
while you're talking about that we just fixed
Finish
those
it up, and
roads.
by the way, the speed limit is, okay.
So as Jen said, we got the dirt and gravel, low volume road grant for Blue Ball, so we should be getting the bill for that, paying for that out of the county money. And hopefully, after we get some other stuff done here this fall or early next spring, we'll try and move to Benita Gap and get that project going. It all depends on.
That was a $69,000 grant, so that was
Yeah.
pretty great for us to get. That's good.
And you're also working on the guide rails on Blue Ball as well, which was a grant.
Yeah, there's $15,000 worth of guide rails. I called 2 people. I'd get 3 phone quotes since it's $15,000. It's kind of hard to get a hold of those people. I got a hold of one of them, didn't really make out anything, and the other one's supposed to call me back, so I'll work on that when I get a chance. Patching some spots here and there when we get a chance to get ready for some tar and chip that's hopefully going to be happening soon. Keep them busy.
I have a question for Brandon. Once they get the fill renewed out back in the old brick school here, how much stone would you estimate we need to put in there?
It all depends, as far as depth-wise, or it all depends
Well,
on how
well-
much more they move out?
Yeah, well, they said he intended to move it out up to where the cardboard container is.
Ish, I think.
Well, he
Ish.
thought he would take every bit of it when I talked to him.
Right.
I don't know. Well, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how much the old brick school needs to budget to have that.
Well, I mean, we can,
And what would we do? Would we put 2 RC down and then 2 Bs on top of it?
You're saying to make it more parking stalls?
Yeah. We're not going to pave it right away, I know that, but we need to put something down there.
right, I mean, I would suggest fabric and then something. I mean,
Yeah.
whether you want to put, so much you want to spend, you want to put 4s down and then put 2A on top of it, or I wouldn't say that 2Bs, you're not going to get weeds growing up in it, but they're going to be marbles and they're going to be pushed all through the yard.
Yeah.
They're pushed everywhere and
Well,
chipped
what
everywhere,
would you
so.
recommend?
Well, I would say the 2A, but I don't know if you want to dig it out and put down a base or just put fabric on it. That's up to you guys.
You mean fabric on the entire parking area or just on the
Yeah,
bank?
just on the parking, that black geo fabric, put some of that
okay.
down, you hold the
Okay.
stone up. It's up to you guys on what you want to do. I mean,
Well, where can you get an estimate? Where can I get an estimate for that?
we can figure it out,
We
but they
have
gotta
the
be done
stone
first, though.
Oh, I know, but it's coming along. I don't.
Yeah.
It's going to happen either this year or early.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably, he already said we can have the load of stone he dumped on the parking lot to save it, so we
Yeah.
got our fabric underneath that, we can flop that back in there after they get the dirt dug out, and then put that on top if you don't want
Okay.
number 1s or 3s or 4s or whatever on top of it, so it's all what you wanna put on there.
Well, yeah, it'd be good to start parking on it as soon as we can because we need the space. Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best answer there is it'd be a little easier once it's a little bit more wrapped
Yeah,
up to see
yeah,
what
once
we need
it
on that.
moves further along, I'm just trying to think ahead
Yeah.
and what we're looking at in terms of money.
I'll look at that at some point when we get a rainy day or something here. We'll
Yeah,
come up with a ballpark idea.
okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay. To unfinished business, codification, we received the E-code version for us to review. The paper copies should be coming.
I think the actual code book, I think. is
Yeah,
what
the
it said.
code.
I don't know, that's just what they said.
So we need to make a motion to advertise, what do we advertise?
The ordinance.
The ordinance for the codification, so that by our next meeting, we can approve the ordinance.
So make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous.
So it'll,
They sent a,
it's in the ad, they
Oh,
just
you
sent
got
the
it.
ordinance, but, yeah, if you wanna help me write it, I don't know, but you don't have to put that whole ordinance in the paper, right?
Right.
Okay. Maybe you can send it to me, or however you do it normally, or do you just normally put that first paragraph? I mean, I can look at what we've had in the past. And so we're really,
I'll send you an email.
yeah, we're really, we're having a public hearing, we have to have a public hearing at the beginning of next meeting to talk about this ordinance, and then we can adopt it after in the public meeting, right? But we are moving along. If you click on the link that I sent you all, it's not live, but you can, it's live for us, but you can click on it and see all of our ordinances, including the street and new street ordinances put in there. So the only one that won't be in there will be the one we just passed today, and that will go in the new law section once the code is passed, and there's any other things that passes in between supplements, it gets put into the new law section. So it depends on how often we probably won't, the few ordinances we pass, you probably won't have to supplement your code, but maybe yearly, if that. So he's gonna give us more information as we get going, but we are moving forward.
and the E-code looks really nice, so that'll be great to have on the website. PVEMS funding, as Doug talked about, Regional Planning Commission has been looking into this LST tax as an option. Charles, do you want to talk at all? Do you want to just have Donna come up?
I would prefer if you let Dawn talk. I think it would make more sense.
Thanks for coming, Donna.
You're welcome. As you know, I am Donna Miller, Gregg Township Tax Collector. And to you, the supervisors, you're in a difficult position as you make decisions in the interest of the EMS as well as the interest of the citizens of Gregg Township and Penns Valley area municipalities. The purpose of my presentation is to talk about some of the different options, and some of these are overlapping what you've already discussed. One would be the LST tax, and this is for funding for the EMS. The local services tax is a tax that is imposed on any individual with earnings for services rendered of any kind within the boundaries of Gregg Township. This tax applies whether you are an employee or self-employed. As employers located within the municipality, you have specific responsibilities for withholding and remitting that tax to the center tax agency. And it's for all individuals who are employed within Gregg Township. I do not know the rules on this, other than just the basic description of the tax. So like Jen, as your secretary, would have one more report to file for the employees. I was given a copy of how much money you would gain from the LST tax. There's two different groups of that tax from my understanding. There's the $10 tax, which there is no income basis. So based on center tax agency's numbers, after their collection fee is taken out, the municipality of Gregg Township would gain about $5,054. And that's a flat $10 tax on everybody, no matter what their earnings are. If you do the low income exemption, it would have $12,000, and that rate then would be $52,000, or $52, $52,000. We'd solve all your problems.
Sure would.
You inherited them. Anyway, that gain of revenue would be $12,761. So that would be your local services tax. Then there was some discussion about per capita tax. This is a flat tax levied on each individual over the age of 18 residing within the taxing district. This tax has absolutely no connection with your employment, your income, your voting privileges, or any other factors except that you're a body within the community. And this can be up to a $10 per capita tax, as I understand it. And the solicitor, you'd have to verify all this in whatever the route they go. The last year that this tax was collected in Gregg Township was 2009. At that time, there were 1,834 people on the rolls. And so if you had that same number of people on the rolls and you had the $10 tax, you would get about $18,340 if you collected from everybody.
And minus the collection fee.
The collection fee, you have, that tax would require creating a roll, which we don't have at this point, printing and mailing the statements, collection, and then there are delinquent collections. And then there are people that are exonerated because they don't live here. So just because you're on the roll doesn't mean there would be money collected. And so that is a very difficult tax to manage. And I don't know, like I drove by, I was driving by some back road here and I thought, oh, how do you go around and find out who's living in these homes anymore? When I had the EIT, I had a lot more access to that information and I knew more the heartbeat of the community. I personally do not have that information and I do not know the heartbeat of the community like I once did.
Is the per capita tax, I know when because of the stuff I've read, the LST tax, if you enact it, and then let's say we build up this fund and we don't need it anymore, and once you decide not to tax anymore, it's done. You can never do it again. Is the per capita tax the same way, or can you, since we stopped doing it, that was my only concern when you brought that up, because I knew we had done it in the past, and now we don't collect it. Is it the same as the LST tax? Once you've collected it, and then if you stop collecting it, can you reenact it? Because I know the LST, you cannot do that. Once you stop, you're done. That's something I have to look into.
There's a dormancy versus, there's an issue as to whether you're just not collecting it versus whether it's just completely off the books.
Okay.
Once you no longer have an ordinance and you truly aren't, you don't have it on, once you've withdrawn the ordinance,
Right, yeah, okay.
you're right. But I suspect you still have the ordinance, you just haven't been collected. I doubt you rescinded that ordinance.
So he would know maybe.
I bet you
I
didn't.
thought maybe we had, but we'd have to see, yeah.
But I don't know, maybe it's not the same, maybe that's not the same law or whatever, but I just know LST, if you adopt it and you.
If you rescinded the ordinance, I agree. From my understanding is you cannot reinstate the ordinance.
There are a few municipalities in Penns Valley School District that still have the tax.
Okay.
All 6 municipalities had it before. Center Hall Borough did not have it because they got money from Grange Fair. So they've never had it. So when we did have the tax, say Jen moved into Gregg Township, but she still was on the rolls in her prior municipality, then I would exonerate her and she would pay the prior municipality or vice versa. It's a very difficult tax to manage, and you're almost dealing a year behind, because by the time your statements go out in March.
Didn't the school district collect that tax?
No, I collected it.
You did?
I collected it.
Township, we
It
sent
was
to them.
combined on the school district's tax statement. It was $15, 10 for the school district, 5 for the municipality. Then, when the school district did away with it because of the earned income being increased after that act, they did away with it, and then our municipality did away with it because we were losing access to information. The job of maintaining the rolls is a difficult job. And we know a lot of people that live in mailboxes. They say, oh, I don't live there. I say, well, where do you live? Oh, I live at P.O. Box. I said, you live in a mailbox? Some people will not identify where they live. it's a difficult tax, but if that's what you decide. Then I have the last thing here, Charles, you can just pass these around the table. And I have these for the public too. The other thing that I have here is using the tax duplicate for the basis of a way to generate some revenue for your EMS. And this is broken down, this is based on the tax duplicate of March the 1st, 2018. And this is off the back of the duplicate, which would be the taxable properties. And the first column, this would be a description. The first column would be the number of parcels in that classification. So if you look there, an agricultural with building, there's 212. You have seasonal there, 10 acres or more, 40, and you can go down through that. This is, the second column is the assessed value, the total assessed value for that classification. Then I took that times a 0.5 mil, and you would get, and I didn't put the dollar signs in here, it would be $6,862.86 from that classification, which would come up. The next column would be the average per parcel, about $32.37. Now, of course, this is based on the valuation. So you may have this very high valued property and this much lower valued property. So this is the average. And if you did the 0.5, you would get $25,094.39. Then I took it to another column, the blue column, and that's $19 per parcel. Everybody gets a flat $19, and everybody pays $19 every parcel. So if you own 4 parcels, you're going to be paying $76. Then the next column there, I was more selective, and I selected $30 a parcel, picking just agricultural with buildings and residential. And that's more utilization, because a vacant lot, you may not have an EMS call to it. So that would be $30 per parcel, and you would get $24,300. Then I was a little broader in the selecting for the utilization, and you can see there the ones that I chose, and that would be $25 per parcel. So then on the back side, and the public does not have this on their back side, these are the exempt parcels. So the old Gregg school is exempt, but they would have utilization needs, because you have many people here, so you could pick up, you can sort of, what do I want to say? You can sort of tweak this to how you want to, how you would want to do it. I did call the county. There's a line item on the statement that we could add, and you could do it however you want to add that. The flat rate, like I said, is selective. I've done the selective, and it's sort of, that would be more like how the sewer authority does the EDUs, that it's based on the utilization. So that's somewhat the principle of that. If you use the selective parcels, it would require a setup. That setup, I talked to the county, and we would be responsible for saying what parcels. If I understood them correctly, they would give us a tax duplicate in an Excel form. And I'm envisioning.
It's how we did it with the streetlight tax. They gave it to us and we just marked all the ones that were included within the streetlight funds with the amount that would be charged, gave it back to them, and then they took care of entering it and putting it on the duplicate. So,
Right.
on the tax. It would be the same.
So was
would
it
be
an
the same.
Excel form?
It was, well, it was actually just, we went and picked it up. It was just like you used to give me that big
Mhm.
printout with, I mean, it's changed now that it's not on those little.
8.5 by 11.
Yeah, so we would just go through and write, each parcel has a line, you would just write it in, the amount that you wanted to charge them, and then they put it right on their, the bill that goes
The
out.
bill. And it would be a separate line item, just like the streetlight. And there is room for that on the statement. And so the only thing that would happen would be when there's a vacant lot, a residence bill on that vacant lot, you would have to add it, that it would pay. If you want to selective choices for your charging. There's no additional mail cost, that's the upside. The downside is it is inconsistent with the other municipalities. So from what I'm hearing, other municipalities using the local services tax, it would be inconsistent. So a person who lives in Gregg Township but is employed by the school district, both husband and wife, could be paying for their land in Gregg Township as well as the $52 each. You know, there's somewhere you're gonna have to bite the bullet and make a decision. Are there any questions about this?
Yeah, what provision in the Pennsylvania tax code would allow you to selectively tax various parcels?
That's the attorney's question, not mine.
So you're not, it's not really called a real estate tax?
It's not a real estate
Yeah.
tax.
What is it? That's what he's asking, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm not, partial tax, so it's not a real estate tax.
I think it's the general county assessment law, but I mean, I can,
It's a county law.
I think all of this was consolidated under the general county assessment law. But I mean, I can give you the exact
Okay.
citation.
I wonder why the other municipalities haven't thought of you.
Because they don't have to own it.
Yeah.
I guess not,
That's
right?
I am impressed.
Well, dollars are dollars. And as supervisors, you have a hard position because you have been given the responsibility of managing the dollars that you are given. And you have to manage those properly, or as you know, people are going to scream. And you are the most local group of people that they can scream at because everything keeps going up. I mean, everything keeps going up. You can't, who are you going to yell at when you go to fill up with gas?
So it's not, there would be no like you would just give me a check and then we would just put that in the general fund and then there would be so like the local services tax would come in pretty much specified for, this is how much it is that was gonna go to EMS. This would be a way they could, it would be all, I guess what I'm asking is it would be in the general fund, not separated out because it would all come in as real estate tax, correct?
No, it would be the same as streetlight. I give you
Oh, it
a
would be a
separate,
okay.
I give you a separate
Right,
check.
okay.
I give you one for real
Okay.
estate, equipment,
Right.
streetlight,
Yeah, that's why I'm
Local
asking, what is it
services.
called? It would be
local
called?
services.
Okay.
And this is just an option that I'm presenting to you. You can work with it, see if it's legal. I don't know. It makes sense to me.
Sounds good.
I have a question. For the LST, I guess it's a twofold question. For the LST, isn't there a mandatory minimum that has to go to the emergency service, but the rest is discretionary? But I could be missing.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, because thank God you're good at math, because I'm not. But let's just say it's $1. And if 25% is for local services, I don't know if it even has to be EMS, it could be fire. I don't know if that stricture is on it, unless you guys say so, but they only have to give 25 cents, because the mandatory, if you enact it, is 1/4 of it. The rest is discretionary for them to use as they see fit.
I do not know about local services tax, I just know that it's a $52 tax, and it is taken off of paychecks.
Right, like, so when I
$1
went to
a
state
week.
college, they get that from me there.
Right,
But my Gregg Township doesn't get it.
right.
Okay, and then my second question, for whether it's like a unilateral half mil, or if it's a selective parcel, which I found that fascinating. What, is there any kind of limitation on the township? So if they enacted it, if it doesn't have that structure that the LST has, they're just calling it an LST, but it's really not. Because the LST has specific, factors to it, what they can and can't do. But this general fund, just like the street light, it would come in and they get to decide what to do with it. Is how they justify to the public for what they're going to do. Is that correct?
I'm not an attorney, and I don't know the legal part. I think if you say you are collecting it for LST, you have to, aside from the expenses, it has to go to that. You
Yeah.
cannot take money. and
Well, I guess,
bring it.
I think that's what I'm trying to say to our board is, it's either an increase for a specific purpose or it's simply an
They
increase.
do it in other places.
Because if it's an increase, it goes into the general fund. Does that make sense? Am I speaking brief?
Say that one more time.
If we just do, it's just like any other time that you're gonna raise taxes because your costs as a township are going up. Let's say, labor costs are going up, or to fill up the trucks because gas goes up. You have to find the money somewhere, so you have to tax the people to keep providing social services to the people. So, if it's a general tax, you maintain discretion over what you do with it. And I think that's my question. I think LST, just from what I've read, it's more
Mandated.
limitations on you, and there's a max collection. Whereas this allows you to either articulate who and what you tax and how and when you use it,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right. So say we went with this tax and, we give it to the EMS, we designate it for EMS next year, but then the laws change and the EMS can generate additional funds
Like
because the House
insurance
bills and the
changes.
Senate bill pass, and they can bill for other services. We can still have the tax and still collect the money. So if you don't designate it as an EMS or an LST tax, then when the EMS is sustaining themselves in this tax.
Right, and then because I think it's when you pass the budget every year, you articulate what the tax rate's gonna be, is that right? And you can raise it or lower it. I mean, usually doesn't go down just because that's the way of life. But you get to say what you do with it. So let's say our general fund or, reserves for maintenance or whatever it is, now hopefully this insurance bill gets passed so that we don't have to say, you have set up a structure for rural EMS to fail within the state of Pennsylvania unless and until you change the insurance laws. And if you do not, we have to come to our local agencies for aid, who are then faced with problems that you all are faced with. And so, my personal take would be flexibility is always better than none.
Can you take some time, David, and get us some of those answers?
Yeah, I definitely want to look over it more. I don't know anything about it. So.
I'm just surprised no one's thought of it before. Like,
Me too.
we've been on this roll for this LST path. If it's so easy that we can just put a real estate tax on some properties and other properties you can't.
It's not a real estate tax. You've got to
Okay.
remove the word
It's a
tax.
parcel tax or something.
It is not a real estate tax. It is using your duplicate as the basis for assessment,
Okay.
like street
Like
light.
streetlight assessment.
Think of it as
An
street.
assessment. That's what we need to think of it as.
It's not a
assessment.
street light tax,
Okay.
it's an assessment.
Assessment of
And if you
use.
went with $19 per every parcel, that's less than being selective.
Sure.
And you can put this on your exempt places too, because I have places in Gregg Township, the water company, they have a street light assessment, and it comes out in March. That's the only statement they get, and that's the only item on it. So your places here can have some assessment too.
Donna, how did you say this would be collected?
Through me.
Through you?
Yeah, it would be printed on the statement,
Mhm.
go out the same as the statements. There would be no, if you went with, and I'm just throwing these, I just picked numbers, okay?
Yeah.
If you went with the $19 per parcel, every parcel, it would, there would be no maintenance to it. Absolutely no maintenance.
Churches included? everything?
No, churches are exempt.
Okay.
Churches are exempt. You could go to the back and you could include the exempt properties.
But that would be discretionary for our supervisors.
That would be discretionary for the supervisors.
So if, instead of the 19, if they use the assessment of use, so the colored columns, would the claim dated be, you know, like arbitrary, capricious for the folks that are selected versus the folks that aren't? Who, I think forward, someone's going to challenge and say, why did I get it and not this person? Who makes the standards, and then where does it go when the challenge comes?
So these are all statutory. The defense to something like that is that we're just following a statute that says we can.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever gotten into saying something that's otherwise exempt is now
No.
kind of unexempt.
It's not,
I'd be, but, yeah, I know what you're saying, because now we are mixing assessment law with the non-assessment taxation. Generally, you avoid arbitrary and capricious issues by just following the letter of the taxing statutes, okay? So you avoid an arbitrary and capricious issue by just following the letter of the Consolidated County Assessment, okay? And unless someone wants to challenge that law, you're not going to.
Well, I guess that's what I'm wondering, where this fits into that code.
I know people do that, not in Center County, but there's a municipality in Blair. I don't know which one, but I know there's one in Blair County that has a tax just like that. But not in Center County. So I know other people do it in different parts of the state.
I just think it gives more options, so I was really glad to hear you say it.
nobody likes to pay more money. Having a flat assessment, the person who has a property that they may end up paying $200 based on their valuation for the local services, where another person may pay a quarter. I think the utilization would be the selling point, that this is just a flat amount, you're a body, you're serving people, versus the value of the property. But I am looking, I don't need to increase funds for the EMS. Or you can keep it at $1. You can keep it at $1 to keep it going. And there, Mr. Attorney, you have, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. David.
Has to be.
Mr.
I'd be,
Trent sounds good, though.
I also do the tax work for the county.
Okay.
So the assessment office, tax claim.
And you can tell Joyce McKinley that I came up with this suggestion.
She can hire you.
Excuse me, Donna, did you say that the other municipalities?
You guys aren't fault or doing anything more than supporting the need of the community, which is the EMS service. That's what this is for.
I think that number can only be $10.
Well, if it can only be $10, then what are the options? But my point is, it's got to boil down to being a per capita per head situation we're at.
How much did the LST generate?
You know, if you're a traveling salesperson, your office probably good. But the, you know, the statute has a definition, but there are issues that you could get into.
Well, this is just an option that I
Yeah.
presented. I had been asked about it if I knew how anything for tax, you know, through taxation. And so those give you the numbers using it at flat rate. And if you want to see how this would impact you, go home and look at your city equipment fund. I think the equipment fund's a 0.5% or 0.5 millage. That would be the dollars if you went with the first column of a 0.5 on the real estate.
Thank you, Donna.
Do y'all have, what would you like me to do before the next meeting? I'm a little concerned. I think there was conversation about needing something by September, which would mean by next month I need to really give
That was
45.
basically to go back to the group that had been set up of supervisors out of the 7 municipalities to give them an answer how each one was going to participate. And that meeting
It seems
is-
like we need to work on our budget before we can tell what we're going to do for 2019. So how can we give them an answer in September if we haven't even had budget discussions yet? So to me, as the budget person, that's a, you know, I can see maybe November, we can give that group an idea of what we can do or what decisions you've made. But by September, most municipalities are just starting their budget process. So it's hard to say,
Yeah.
unless you know you're going to establish a tax and you're going to put that tax in the budget, there's no way to say by September, from my perspective.
Yeah,
Well, I think
the
that's the
problem
deadline.
with that group though is, like, we're learning with this LST tax and everything, all of our municipalities are different.
Right.
And so we're all gonna generate it in a different way. We're not gonna have this group agreement where every single municipality is using the same thing. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, that, I think, that's when that either that group or municipalities that are there at that meeting on a constant basis wanted the answer for the EMS, because that's when they wanted the EMS's budget, and the EMS's was like, well, how do we give it to you without knowing? So everybody's kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, right.
So, kind of a mashup there.
Donna?
I did have another comment. My one concern, whatever you do, if you go with the local services tax, a per capita tax, put it onto the real estate statement, people are going to say, oh, that's my contribution, I'm done. I'm not buying a membership.
And then we're in the same break-even state.
Right.
That is a concern that I have, whatever route we go.
And Jen, the math for that is on the back of the report that the director generated.
It's the same report that was at that meeting, right, in the gym? No?
I don't think so. It's what Dave sent you via email.
Oh, right, yeah.
But I wrote on the back of mine,
Okay.
Dave, you have it in your hands.
Yeah. We got that, and we also got some of the breakdown of the LST, of what they projected each municipality would generate from that meeting that you went to. You didn't go?
I wasn't able
Yeah,
to.
so, I don't know if that's true, or, I mean, those are true facts.
Do they
Those came from the tax agency.
prorate it for the district, like the different municipalities? Is it prorated or their expectation of what they would like to see from them?
I think they are so at the mercy of the townships that they're gonna do what needs to be done. Like, we don't even have that. Does that make sense? Like, it's my understanding, well, I mean, I just started in January, but this is the first year they've had a budget. This is also the first year that they've acknowledged that for the past 4 years, every time this deficit has happened, they've reached into the trust to bring us back to zero. The problem, I think last fall, October, November, when they started talking to municipalities was, we don't have the funds anymore to bring us to the black. And so now we're at a crisis, and that's what's happening.
One
But I
thing,
could be wrong.
one thing I would like Charles or one of you to take back to them is this LST tax. Let's say Potter raises X amount because they have a lot of businesses. Penn will raise a lot for the school district. Is all of that going to go to the EMS and then, like, is there going to be, like, let's say we have to generate 100,000, and if they all put in, and then the other municipalities, let's say we all do the LST tax, do we still have to come up with our $500,000, or is what we generate with the LST going to be enough, and then we call it good? I guess that's the question. Or is, is Potter or Penn going to put their whole pot in, or are they going to only put their $500,000 in, and then we all still have to somehow dig up money to raise that certain $0.5 million equivalent?
So that's something that I brought up. I mean, I think this board is finally, whether by will or by reality, is being forced to look at the numbers. Like last night, Charles knows, I pushed and pushed and pushed to say, where is the difference between income and expense? What do we tell the municipalities? And so, once we got to that phase, I think it kind of dawned on some people, that's a really big deficit. And then I know Potter is extremely supportive of the EMS, but they're also elected officials. So it can change, and so right now, where they are right now is whatever excess, at least according to Jay Tanis, is it's all gonna go to EMS. But there's that discretionary piece of the 100 versus 25%, which I'm completely in favor of any remedy. There's clearly some that are far fairer than others, but then it comes down to enforceability, and it's a very difficult question for our township.
Well, at this point, the hard thing is, so if Penn's going with the LST,
I think they're going with
if we
this
all
obvious
don't
plan.
go with the LST and just say, listen, whatever the LST generates is the amount that the EMS is going to get from the municipalities. That's the only way that you're not going to end up taxing
The people
some
that-
residents twice.
Right.
Because if ours only generates 6,000 or 12,000 or whatever it is, and we still have to come up with more, we're still going to have to raise taxes somewhere else, which means residents of Gregg Township that also work in Penns Valley are then getting hit twice. So, I mean, it's going to come to a point where we just have to say, this is
Well, it's not just
this
Penns
is all
Valley,
we
though.
can give.
It's not just Penns Valley, though. I mean, it's the same, I think it's the choice that the person makes. Like, for example, I work in State College. State College is my 52, but you get my real estate,
Right.
which I knowingly make that choice every day. And so, it's definitely an argument, but I think the fairness argument or the equality argument, because, we never know when an accident's gonna happen. And that's the reality.
It would be the
whether
same
it's
with the per
2-year-old
capita
or-
tax though, too. It's not gonna generate the equivalent of a $500,000 for Gregg Township. So we either say,
Yeah, it's either one or the
this
other.
is all we can give.
Right. Well, I think the better question, I guess, would be for all the townships to report what the LST is, and do we make it? Because if we make it with the LST, then everybody can say, well, let's do the LST. If you can't make it, now you have the harder decisions.
We won't know that, though. We won't know what we can generate with the LST tax until we implement the whole thing and we go out to employers and train them on how to do it, and then it will take us a few years for us to know exactly how much we can generate with this. I mean, that's the way I think it sounds like. It's going to be a hard tax to determine how much we'll get.
I think Center Tax Agency, because they're the EIT collectors.
Right, should be able to,
Can
but
target the people that do not have it collected.
Well, at least it's a projection.
I guess if we could come up with that money.
So really, we need to know the EMS's financial status at our budget time, so that in our budget time,
Well, that's
we
why I
can
tried to give you
determine
that.
whether that's it.
That's,
So we really can't make a decision now until
No.
we get to that point.
no, and I don't think rushing is the answer.
Right.
I really don't. I think data and information and analysis is, and the needs of the people.
So I think the biggest thing to take back both to the EMS and to your board is that we're not going to rush this decision, and we're not going to make it until we have their financial situation in the books that we can see, and where we are when it comes to budget time. So those are my thoughts.
Well, I just think, I mean, Donna, you're an amazing resource for us. I don't know if the folks are in other townships are as lucky as we are, but do they have the accessibility to the information that you gave us so that they can?
It's on every bucket.
Okay, so I guess that's what, I'll just email the director and say, you know, every liaison has to know what that number is. And there's wonderful people on that board, but they're not all tuned into what this issue is.
Well, the work that the municipalities can do right now is to get all of these options written out and how much each of these options can generate so that when it comes down to budget time, we have numbers.
The answers. And I can't force the answers out of.
So sharing what Donna brought with the other municipalities is a step, then they can add that to their list of possibilities, and then we can revisit this in a few months.
Mine was only options,
Right.
you know, to educate you as to options.
I don't think anything. We can send you questions that we have.
Dave, if you could find out the answer for the LST, because it doesn't sound like someone in my group has a firm, yes, it's this amount is set and the rest is discretionary, but we're all giving it, like, I want to know what it is so the public knows what it is. Because I have to talk about it in the write-ups that I do, and I refuse to be wrong. What's that?
So she's saying whether it all has to go to EMS or
Right,
whether
but
only a
that's-
percent is.
This is for Gregg Township.
Right.
Okay.
Do you have another copy of this so that you guys can keep it for your?
I have
Don't
none.
even
Here.
mention that.
Lindsay.
That was,
Thank you. But like for the discretionary versus the full, I think that's important for the public to know for the point that you pointed out.
Donna mentioned there tonight, if you want to read this off.
You're right. What do you, read it off or what?
So the public can hear it.
No, I mean is the full amount, full 52 for by law EMS if you enact it,
That's
or
not what this
is
is.
it
Okay.
25%?
Yeah, that's not what this is talking about.
I have a paper here, but I'm not sure if it was for that municipality. The taxes remitted to Center Tax Agency,
Did it go to?
district shares $5 of this tax.
Okay, so that says the district.
Do you know, you have to all
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's being distributed.
But I need to look at it.
Yeah, like I don't expect an answer tonight, you know.
I
something
think the answer is no.
I'm sorry.
I don't think, I think it all has to go to EMS. But-
Well, not technically EMS, let's go to emergency services,
Fire,
and also
right,
fire.
right,
It
right,
could go to clean up after a storm.
Right.
you know, or during a storm.
Right.
but
Yeah.
let me make sure.
David, I wanted to ask you, I think for the LST to work, I think all the municipalities would have to agree to give whatever the tax generates in their municipality. And that would generate roughly $64,000 a year, which would be a sustainable source of income for the EMS. But, as Lindsay says, it doesn't have a lot of flexibility. Could an agreement be written with a sunset clause, or this could be renegotiated every so many years? That would give the EMS a sustainable source of income. And if they do better and don't need it any longer, then there would be a point in there where it could be removed and taken back to the municipality, or a fraction of it could be removed, that kind of thing.
I'd have to think about the details, but yes, I mean, you can have a joint municipal agreement that sets forth the conditions under which the different municipalities contribute money.
Yeah, speaking for
Generally.
myself, I would not want to enter into an agreement unless each municipality gave its entire collection to the EMS for a
That's
certain
basically what we
period
just
of
did
time.
on the mill tax for this year.
Yeah,
It'd be the same idea as what we just did.
yeah.
It would take quite an act to get everyone to agree on the same thing.
Well, it sounds like there's momentum though, and I don't know.
But it would be nice to get all the other municipalities to push the brakes and pause until we get further into the year, so.
I only hold sway with Gregg Township.
I know. But, you know, when you're meeting with all the municipalities. It's all you.
It's not gonna happen, I can tell you that right now.
Well,
They've already made up their mind, at least 3.
my mind's not made up,
Who were
so.
the 3?
Would be Potter, I believe, Center Hall Burr, and, no, I'm sorry, Penn and Haynes.
So Penn, Potter, and Haynes?
Yes. I don't know the exact number for any of them, but they pretty much had made up their mind.
You can try and convince them. You can try and convince them to slow down.
The whole thing? Are they giving the whole thing to the
That's,
EMS?
nobody's taken enough time to think this
Yeah,
through,
right.
so.
My understanding, yes, is what that's
The
what
whole
they
thing?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I think that's good on our discussion for today. First National Bank business card, we need a motion to set the credit limit. I'll entertain a motion to set the credit limit at $5,000.
I'll make that motion. Yeah, second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Then I will entertain a motion that Jen will be the administrator to the card.
Yeah, I'll make the motion, we can be the administrator for the card.
Sorry, we had to, these were things that if I had known last month, we would have done it, but we're.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we'll take care of that.
Township Map, we've gotten a few businesses that have already reserved their spaces on it, so any businesses in the community interested in being part of the Township Map, please let us know. We're hoping to kind of really get that together end of July, beginning of August. Sarah Campbell Lane Road update. Rush slide-in emailed this week. Their progress to date is West Penn is moving the poles. Verizon met with them about moving their poles. They had an additional survey. They have 4 bids coming in and are hoping to receive those by the end of July for a design build, which means the winner will be responsible for all engineering of the road, which is why our engineer was at their pre-bid meeting. If all goes well, they're hoping to begin work as soon as the Nittany Antique Machine Association Fall Show is complete. That may be optimistic because DEP permits are involved, but that's what they're hoping for.
I got a phone call yesterday from Center County Planning. I haven't updated you all, so this is what we're talking about. Russ's engineers have listed Sarah Campbell Lane as a right-of-way for the township rather than just a fee simple ownership. Basically, if that's going to be opened as a permanent public road, it would just be a right-of-way rather than being owned. And the township, the county planning and PennDOT have thrown up all sorts of red flags. And they called me about it. And I told them, first of all, I know nothing about the details relating to that. But second, I can't imagine how it could ever be a right-of-way if everything happens that is supposed to happen. So if you hear about that, I just give them my 2 cents.
Well,
Right away.
They
It's
just
not
want to
gonna be
take
a
care
right
of
away.
it. They just want to take care of it and not us own
Saying
it.
it's not to be a right
They
of way.
want.
It shouldn't be
It
a
should be
right.
owned
But
by the
if
township.
it's going to be an open roadway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be an open roadway, as far as I know.
Right.
I mean, this
It
is
can't
the link
just be a
between
right.
192 and Penn State Road.
Right, it can't be a right-of-way.
So are they correcting that, or?
I don't know. But I told them that I know of no precedent for it being a right-of-way. So if you hear about that, that's, and they agree. And
I'm sure they agree.
I agree.
Just one question. I know that Don Cranston is working with Rushline's engineers, but is Pennscape reimbursing us for our engineering process?
Yes.
Do you know who his engineer is, by chance?
Anything else on Sarah Campbell? New business, Center County Suicide Task Force asked for us to pass a resolution designating September as Suicide Prevention Month. So I will entertain a motion to pass Resolution 1808, designating September as Suicide Prevention Month.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. State Road 2007, Section A02 Dual Bridge Replacement over an unnamed tributary to Penns Creek. You received the review packet for that. It's this big honking thing here. If you guys want to look through that. Basically, we need to let them know if we have any comments. It's about an environmental.
We just have to put it in our meeting agenda, put it in our minutes that we've looked over that, and I give it to PennDOT and they can submit that for their permit. It's basically what it says.
It'd be Brush Mountain Road, correct?
Right, the
The
two
two
small
bridges
bridges
right
on Brush
Right.
Mountain Road.
It's a-
And they'll be
it's a-
closing
it's a
next
bridge
year to you.
over tributary. There's two.
For two right in a row on Brush
Down
Mountain.
The two one-lane bridges right there,
There's a meeting on Tuesday that
19th.
Brandon's gonna go to.
Sure.
All looks great.
Yeah, it really has nothing to do with us.
I'll just write the board reviewed the packet.
Yeah.
All right.
Because it's
That was
their
more of
road.
a interest than was anticipated.
What did you tell me that?
Correspondence, any comments on anything under correspondence?
We just need property for number one. Brush and leaf collection, I've had lots of people call me about that. But I tell them we don't have the property to do that, so.
Anything else for good of the order? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, wait, I did want to make one more comment. Albert Young brought this to the office today. He was given this from the bridge, the old bridge that was up here, and he wanted to let the township have it now, so.
So if anybody has an Eagle Scout and they want a project that can make that into something maybe, or they can hang it in hall.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
Makes it into the.
Have a great day. Thanks for coming.
That would be